Hi, True Avatars, and welcome to your weekly queer video game podcast. This is episode 58, and I am your host, Zoe Wild. I am a transgender and bisexual woman, and my pronouns are she, her. Please bear with me. It was a late night. It's been a long week. I've been staying up late all week to watch the Jays, the Toronto Blue Jays, try to win the World Series. It's Sunday morning when I'm recording the news. And anyway, we lost last night. So, in Game 7, in extra innings. Very exciting game, though. I'm not even mad. I'm just, tired. And don't worry, I'm gonna tie in random Toronto stuff, baseball stuff to video games, because I actually want to ask my listeners, if you play any baseball video games, please recommend one to me. I've been looking at MLB The Show. Oh, I was at my knees. I've been looking at MLB The Show 25, and I guess I'm waiting for a sale on that at this point. But if there's a game that's still listed and it's older or whatever, there's no Mario baseball game right now that you can just go out and buy for modern consoles. I really wish Nintendo would get on that because, excuse me, I love those games. And sadly they only made 2 of them. I thought for sure this was the year we were going to get, or last year was the year we were going to get another Mario baseball, because every 3 years we were getting a Mario sports game, and they finally brought back Mario soccer. And I was like, okay, if they're doing soccer, and that was on the GameCube, they'll do baseball, which was also on the GameCube, and they did not. And I wonder if that has to do with the fact that Bandai Namco, is the company that made those games back in the day. So I don't know, but maybe they've just had Bandai making other games. Anyway, if you have a good baseball game to recommend that isn't, because I do have the old Mario baseballs already, but I want something a little more modern and probably a little less arcadey. But anyway, drop a comment down below. But we are going to jump into the actual queer stuff now. Yeah, so it's actually just me for the first half. Well, I got my bearings here. So for the first half, it's just going to be the news, because I've been watching the Jays, so I've not been playing any video games at all this week. I've been very busy. So, anyway, so for the headlines though, we've got a bunch. Metal Gear Solid Delta got a free update this week. I think it's the Fox Hunt, multiplayer stuff. Fear Effect 2, the sequel/prequel to queer game Fear Effect, is coming to modern consoles next year. Major layoffs and game cancellations happened this week at Amazon, of all places. There's a surprise Animal Crossing New Horizons update coming in January, and a couple of very weird headlines involving Hideo Kojima and President Trump. Thankfully, these are not actually related. Those are separate headlines, but still weird, both of them. And then in the second half of the show, earlier last week, I pre-recorded a segment with Zoe Straw. She is back, and she is going to talk all about Borderlands 4. Cause I don't have time to play every new game that comes out. And you might have noticed we skipped over the week when Borderlands came out, because not really a game for me, although honestly her discussion maybe it is, but, anyway, I just didn't have time to play it. So finally got Zoe Straw on, and, she's going to talk about it. She's going to tell us if it's fun, if it runs well, if it's better than Borderlands 3, if it's worse than Borderlands 2. She answers all our questions and much more. So please stick around after the news segment for that. But before I jump into everything for this episode, I do have a few quick favors to ask of you, True Avatars, as I ask every week. If you like this podcast, please leave a comment, rating, or review on your preferred podcast platform. Spotify has ratings and comments, while Apple has reviews. Engagement like comments, ratings, and reviews helps to grow the podcast, and a growing podcast means a happy podcast host who is forever happy and fulfilled that you enjoy listening to her ramblings, which creates an infinite feedback loop of more podcast episodes and more growth and more happiness. So please go leave a comment, rating, or review on your preferred platform of choice. If you're watching the video version on YouTube, please like this episode. Leave a comment, please. I love hearing from you. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you are the first to know when a brand new video drops. Also, please follow True Avatars, a queer video game podcast, on social media. There are accounts on Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, Facebook, and TikTok. Did I say TikTok? I rambled over those. At True Avatars, and you can also find the podcast on the official website, trueavatarspodcast.com, and that's no spaces, trueavatarspodcast.com. And remember, this is a weekly queer video game podcast, so check in every week. I am to bring you news, interviews, and up-to-date discussions that are relevant to queer gamers. Almost said irrelevant, I meant relevant. So you have a safe space to check in on the world of gaming from a 2S LGBTQIA+ lens. Alright, this first headline is pretty queer. Fear Effect 2 Retro Helix is coming to modern consoles. So a few months ago, I think I mentioned on the podcast, a bare bones remaster of Fear Effect was released to current gen consoles. I think it was shadow dropped, if I'm remembering correctly. But anyway, at LRG3 this week, which is Limited Run Games, the company that releases a lot of more niche titles on physical media, they have like a big E3 style showcase that's no longer taking place during E3. So the name is not as punny as it used to be. But anyway, in this showcase, they usually announce games coming to physical, and sometimes they announce games that haven't been announced yet that are also coming to physical. And in this case, they announced that Fear Effect 2 is getting a similar remaster, very bare bones remaster, as the same as Fear Effect 1 got. So it's coming to physical media. I lost that sentence halfway through, as you can probably tell. So anyway, this does come from IMDb, I think. I found a short summary of this. The one on Wikipedia was very long. In this prequel to PS1 cyberpunk survival horror action adventure game Fear Effect 2000, Hannah and her female partner and lover Rain, who was absent during the original game, are tasked to rob a high-security biolab. So anyway, this is coming to physical media, but it is also getting a digital release. It's coming in 2026 to PS5 and Nintendo Switch. There was no mention of PC in the announcement, but the first game's remaster is on Steam, so I imagine it will also come to PC. It's just not getting a physical release, and this was a physical presentation. And there has been no word on either game coming to Xbox, so if you're an Xbox person, like, I'm very sorry, it's not getting the support it needs to get, and probably the way the Xbox is going at this point, maybe never, unfortunately. So, by the way, speaking of the physical release though, if you're into that, cool. But keep in mind that this game was like less than $15 Canadian, the first Fear Effect when it released back in August. So, I don't know how much the physical cost, but it was probably at least $50 US, or maybe $50 Canadian. Getting that wrong. Either way, it's a significant discount to buy the digital. And while I'm a huge proponent of physical media and I love it, some games are just significantly cheaper to buy digital. So if this is something you want to play and you want to save some money, pick it up digitally. And the first one, like I said, is available right now. Okay, this next headline was very exciting and very disappointing for some people, depending on who you are. And I don't think it's an inherently queer headline, but I'm sure a lot of queer people play this game. And that's Animal Crossing New Horizons. So it's getting a Nintendo Switch 2 edition in January. It's coming on the 15th of January, so just after the holidays, which is a little strange. I think Nintendo would want to push this, like, right before, get some extra sales. But it's going to be a $4.99 USD or $6.99 Canadian upgrade. And so it's going to support Joy-Con 2 mouse controls, and I'm going to read here from like the press release of sorts. Joy-Con 2 mouse controls, which can be used for redecorating your home, creating custom designs, and writing messages on the bulletin board. A new item in Nook's Cranny, the megaphone, which lets players call to other residents using the Switch 2's microphone. Expanded online features for the Switch 2 edition include support for up to 12 players, as long as they all have the Switch 2 edition, versus 8 players in the standard version, meaning Switch 1 version. Switch 2 camera support, letting players show their faces alongside their characters. You might notice here, they didn't really mention a resolution boost or a frame rate upgrade. Now, I'm pretty sure I did see that there's a resolution boost in the Switch 2 version, but I know for a fact there is no frame rate upgrade. It is still locked to 30 FPS. There is no 60 FPS, which I know was a disappointment for a bunch of people. If you just want Animal Crossing New Horizons on Switch 2 for like the frame rate increase, it's not happening, but I think it's getting the resolution boost at least, so it doesn't look blurry or anything on Switch. On Switch 2. And both versions of the game, so if you own the Switch 1 version and you don't want to upgrade, or you don't have a Switch 2, but you want to keep playing the game, there is a free content update coming, and this is kind of cool. So it's like just items mostly. So if you're not interested in new items, then I guess this isn't for you, although if you play Animal Crossing, you probably like items. But anyway, there is going to be a new hotel. There's going to be Lego themed decorations, so I think you can make your whole house look like Lego if you want. They're adding classic Nintendo consoles as items you can get, and on these consoles, in the game, you can play retro games inside the game. Kind of like the original Animal Crossing on GameCube. So, however, to play these games, you have to have NSO, Nintendo Switch Online, because that's where all the games actually are probably being emulated from, just through the game. Still a really cool feature, though. And they're also adding Zelda and Splatoon items as well, which is another leg above Mario Kart World, which is nice. Anyway, this free update to Switch 1 and Switch 2 is also coming the same day as the Switch 2 upgrade, which is January 15th. And if you are curious and you want this content on a physical copy, the Switch 2 edition is getting a physical release. And Switch 2 editions, to be clear, if it says Nintendo Switch 2 edition, like Legends ZA has, the Pokemon game, or I know Super Mario Party Jamboree has a Switch 2 edition, and so does Kirby and the Forgotten Land has a Switch 2 edition. If you get a Switch 2 edition of a game, and it's got a red cartridge inside, that Switch 2 edition is still playable. Oh, and the Zelda games are still playable on Switch 1, because it's actually the Switch 1, like, thing inside the cartridge. And then there's also like the patch for Switch 2 included there as well. So it's playable on both consoles. So if you want a physical copy, for Switch 1 or Switch 2, and you want this content on it, or you just like physical, it is included. You can play it, and that's also coming on the 15th. I can't remember the price of the American version, but I know the Canadian version is $90. And I think that's literally just like the $5 increase over the $84.99 that it is to get the base version. So you're literally just paying like for the upgrade. That's it. Like that's all they're adding to it. They're not adding an extra little bit of cost like they've done for other Switch 2 editions. In fact, since it's $7 for the upgrade here, I think you're saving $2, which with Nintendo is a big deal, unfortunately. Anyway, let's move on here. So back in episode 41, which is like all the way at the beginning of July, I think, or end of June, beginning of July. This is the Deltarune episode, by the way, if you remember that. But in that episode, I also did the news, and I talked about something called Stop Killing Games, which is basically a movement from gamers to get video games that are having their support ended. For example, like if an online game is, really popular, but it's dying off, and like I think The Crew 1 is a big example that was used at the time. But like the game is being taken offline, even though you've paid for it, you can't play it offline at all. Like servers are being shut down. And also the studio doesn't want, like the publisher doesn't want you to play, with fan servers. Well, Stop Killing Games is fighting against that. So finding some way to make it so, games publishers and developers have to find a way to let you play their game even after support has officially ended. Whatever form that takes, as long as there is a way for fans to play legally, fairly, and like just generally being allowed to play, like the programming allows it. So anyway, there's been an update from this team. They said, I'm trying to read here what I've written in the notes. I don't even know. But anyway, so the organizers did have some good news here. Here's what I'm actually reading. Update on the verification progress. Out of 1,448,270 signatures, 689,035 of those are already verified, and 15 countries in the EU. So this is all in the EU, by the way, is where movement is happening. Though we know when the EU makes a law, it generally affects everything in tech, for good or for bad. Have met their thresholds. We are still missing the two largest countries, Germany and France, but based on our current progress, we are confident we have surpassed the required thresholds. This is good news. I think this means that, I'm not 100% sure, but I think this means that, the EU has to now take this petition very seriously, and debate it at an official level. Hopefully this leads to real change, because it might vary from game to game. Like some games might just have to add a patch so you can play the game offline, either single player or local multiplayer, or let fans run the servers, or even, which is not great for the publishers. I'm sure they wouldn't like this, but they have to just keep supporting the game. And this probably won't really affect games that have already ended their support. It'll probably only affect games going forward, which means it'll probably be things that they have to program in going into the development of the game instead of something they might do later, but like adding a patch. But it would be really nice if games could stop, you no longer have to worry if a game that you like that isn't popular. Like I'm sure there's at least one person that still wants to play COD Core. There has to be. Even though I think maybe 1,000 people played it at most, one of those 1,000 people has to have enjoyed it and has to want to keep playing it. There's people who bought physical copies that just can't use them. No matter how you feel about that game, I think from a preservation standpoint, I think people made that, there was work and heart and soul put into that game. Time, blood, sweat, tears, what have you. There's people who played it, and there's people who might enjoy it. There's people who might want to come back to it later. There might be someone in 10 years who thinks, actually, this was ahead of its time. Not saying that'll happen with Concord specifically, but there might be someone who wants to play that game and they can't anymore. So all that is to say is that let's hope the EU makes some good real change on this movement. Meanwhile, speaking of things that you can't enjoy, PlayStation concert. I've been talking about this in every podcast I can because I bought a ticket. I was going to go alone. No one wanted to go with me. It was expensive. It was an awkward, faraway time, but the PlayStation concert is officially canceled everywhere. So they've been slowly canceling shows over this year in different cities. I've been following this. I really have been following this because I've been worried that the Toronto show would get canceled because the Toronto show was sold out. Canadians were ready to show up for this one. I was really excited. I really wanted to hear Nate's theme, and now I can't because I got my refund. So Video Games Chronicle actually reported earlier last week, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, that like a bunch more shows have been canceled, but Toronto was like iffy. It was sold out, but you couldn't buy like maybe like the handful of remaining seats if there were any. And so literally an hour later, I was like posting about it on Blue Sky. An hour later, I literally got an email saying like, here's your refund. Followed by a very loud swear word in my office where I work. Yeah. So not very ladylike, I know. But anyway, yeah, so I'm really sad because I was very looking forward to like, I was looking forward to hearing a lot of the music. Not some of it I'm not as familiar with, but like, I really wanted to hear stuff from Uncharted and The Last of Us, especially Nate's theme. Like, hearing Nate's theme played by a live orchestra from Uncharted would have been iconic, especially since like, they barely used it in the Uncharted movie, which would have been like the next best thing for hearing it like, in like a big live kind of ish experience. So anyway, really disappointed that they canceled, but I guess Toronto was the only show that sold out anywhere, apparently, as far as I can tell, or one of the only ones. Everywhere else, like, was not selling tickets at all, so I get why they canceled it, but I know that they've already performed it, so I have to imagine that, like, some of the prep work and the sheet music is ready, and I know that I'm not going to pretend to know anything about music, so, like, at me in the comments, please, if I'm wrong, but I know that when these concerts come, they don't tour with an orchestra. They, like, send the sheet music to the orchestra locally, like a local orchestra, and they rehearse it for a day, and then they play it live that evening. So, if that's all it takes, I don't understand why they still couldn't have put on the concert, at least in Toronto. Maybe it's not logistically possible. Maybe Sony was just like, you know what? No one wants to see this, even though there's one show that's sold out. We're not going to bother with this. Like, the organization, it's just not worth it. I don't know, but I'm sad. I'm sad. I really wanted to go. I love, it's so rare that I actually get to go to an orchestral video game concert for music that I'm familiar with. That I can like generally afford, because like it was expensive, but it wasn't like that expensive. Like concert tickets can be like $200, $300, before they're scalped. And this was like 125 Canadian, I think I paid for my seat. So anyway, yeah, I'm really sad, especially since I've missed out on a bunch too when I wasn't into video games as much in high school. I think there's a Zelda concert or something that I missed, and, the Stardew concert sold out, really quickly. So anyway. Sony. Okay. We're moving on to more disappointing news here because layoffs happened this week, and they were really big layoffs. Amazon laid off a lot of people across the company at the corporate level, not at the warehouse level, like at the shipping level, but they laid off over 14,000 people across their corporate entities. And this did include game development teams in Irvine and San Diego. Those are both in California, for those who don't know. So these studios were making two MMORPGs. One was called New World, and the other was it was a Lord of the Rings game. And despite the initial announcement saying that they were still working on these games, there are reports that they have both been canceled. I'm not sure if anything was really announced about these games or if anyone was new enough to be really excited for these, but they have been canceled. We don't know the specific number of people that were laid off at these studios. Because apparently the studios are still open, according to the initial release, but all the stuff. Anyway, games canceled. A lot of people got laid off. I'm not sure if it was all of them. It hasn't been very clear. And then there was another round of layoffs of sorts. I don't know if you technically call them layoffs, but they were terminations. But Rockstar laid off 30 to 40 people between Canada and the UK this week. Rockstar, if you don't know, is famous for making the GTA and Red Dead Redemption games, Grand Theft Auto. And so Jason Schreier this week reported that the intention behind these terminations, in quotes here, terminations were in quotes, were to prevent unions from forming. So that's grim. I'm not surprised, because this is like, that's par for the course when a company discovers unionizing is happening before the union has actually like been formed and voted on. So to stop it, you generally just like fire those people and it nips it in the bud. But also unions are a good thing. I don't care what anyone says these days. I know there's a lot of anti-union sentiment, but I will die on this hill that unions are the only reason we have work rights as workers today at all. Like, seriously. So it's really grim that this happened, and really unfortunate, because I'm sure that this union was probably desperately needed at these places, and now they won't have them. So I'm not sure if the union would have affected every Rockstar studio, if it was just the ones in Canada and the UK. But yeah, 30 to 40 people, I guess. I think I was seeing that there was like a Discord chat and someone found it. I don't know. if someone snitched, but remember what snitches get, people. Remember what snitches get. It's not switches, that's for sure. So this is a weird piece of news, and I am going to talk about Donald Trump a little bit, so if you want to, maybe skip ahead like 3 to 4 minutes, if you don't want to hear this, but this is kind of funny. This isn't really, this doesn't really have to do with anything with all the really bad stuff he's been doing. Not saying he did something good here, but it's just weird. So Trump announced the end of the console wars, kind of. So now that Halo is coming to PlayStation, GameStop in the US tweeted that the console wars are officially over with some really weird long document. I didn't read it. I thought it was weird. And an official White House account reposted this tweet, claiming that President Trump is taking credit for the end of the console wars. And then GameStop quote tweeted that post with, a follow-up picture. Like it's an AI generated picture of President Trump and Master Chief shaking hands. And this all caused GameStop's stock to shoot up again. So I'm not sure if it went to the moon or not in this case, but, anyway, yeah, it's just weird. Like, the console wars are over because Master Chief is coming, like, Halo is coming to PlayStation, but did everyone forget about Nintendo? Because Mario isn't on PlayStation, and Halo isn't on Switch, so, like, are the console wars really over if PlayStation's not releasing their stuff on Xbox, so, like, Xbox conceded the war, but I think Nintendo and Sony are still going at it, even though Nintendo wins by not competing. Or fighting at all. So, okay, moving on here. Metal Gear Solid Delta, the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake that came out back in August, it's getting a free update, and this update is Fox Hunt, the online multiplayer mode, which has been finally added to the Delta remake. So, like, it's a free update. It comes with 2 modes, which one is called Survival Capture, which is basically capture the flag, except there's cute little frog statues you have to collect. I think those are in the main game as well. But this is the multiplayer mode, and it looked very silly. And very fun. There was like, you could do dances and stuff, and there's like a little scene at the end with Snake where he's dancing and then like someone blows him up. And there's also another mode called Survival Intrude, and I'm really not sure what this mode is, because the trailer didn't really explain it very well, or at all. But Video Games Chronicle did mention it involves progressing through multiple phases while using stealth tactics, so I guess it's just like survival. Maybe you're trying to sneak into a base. Not 100% sure, but it looks really silly and fun. So if you're into this game and you want more of it, you could check this mode out. And I think it is separate from the mode with, I know Astrobot's in the mode, but I can't remember what the other character is. Oh, the Ape Escape Monkeys. There's like another mode with that. I thought this was this, but it's not. That's different. So, and anyway, here's the other weird fun headline that I have for you. This is the last headline, by the way. Don't worry. We're almost done here. Is that Hideo Kojima almost made a Matrix game. Kind of, not really. So this week reports came out that the Wachowski sisters, famed directors of the Matrix movies, which are also super eggy, asked Kojima to make a Matrix game. But this never happened, obviously. Time Extension, which is like sister site to like Nintendo Life and Push Square, wrote an entire article about everything that went down back in 1999, only for Kojima to kind of debunk it all this week. So he got on Twitter, wrote a long tweet. Apparently, he never even knew that the Wachowskis were interested, since if they did approach Konami at the time, back in like 1999, Kojima never heard about it until literally this week. So we don't really know exactly what happened. I don't think the Wachowski sisters have commented on this at all. Although I can't imagine they wouldn't want to work with Hideo Kojima, because Hideo Kojima and trans women name a more iconic duo at this point, right? So anyway, The Matrix is a super eggy story too, and so Kojima is so supportive of trans rights and stuff. I think this would have been probably a very good game, especially back in the day when he was making, I mean, he's making weird stuff now, but like the late 90s, early 2000s were just different. And especially if you were alive and you remember it, like there was just, stuff was different and weird, but I felt as a kid being like 5 or 6 at the time, like it felt really weird to just like especially like the like bleach blonde tips and stuff like that. Anyway, there was a lot of weird stuff going on at that time, and it felt very normal as a kid because you don't know anything else. And then as you grow up, you realize like, wow, that was a weird time we grew up through. Thankfully, I have very little nostalgia for the aesthetics of that time, but some of the vibes I kind of miss. Anyway, that's all the news. Yeah, I felt definitely like a lighter week, but still quite a few headlines there, but they were all very light headlines, except for obviously the darker ones that I mentioned. But every week it seems like there's layoffs at some point, so it is what it is at this point, unfortunately. Yeah, there's not too much I can say that I haven't said already on layoffs. I just report on them because somebody has to. I feel like as a queer podcast, like I also want to be kind of like forward thinking and progressive and just like generally with it. And I think like layoffs are something that like feel right in a queer podcast. Not that people should be laid off, but like just feel right mentioning it in something that's like generally considered woke. I know that's like almost pejorative at this point to say woke, but it's a woke podcast, and I'm going to mention laughs because it's a woke thing to do. So anyway, stick around after this musical interlude, after this break, and I will be back on with Zoe Straw to talk all about Borderlands 4. Hi, True Avatars, and we're back from the break. With me is Zoe Straw, a trans woman and game developer, a regular on the podcast, whose pronouns are she, her. Welcome back, Zoe. How are you?
Hey, happy to be here. I'm good. Yeah, I'm happy to be back. It's been a heck of a couple months.
Do you want to talk about any of it? Insofar as like it's safe for the podcast.
Yeah, of course. So as you know, I had my GRS a couple months ago now, like a little over 2 months ago now. And so I've been recovering, and I'm kind of like bouncing back, and I'm finally like back in that place where I'm not 100%, but I have like the energy to like go out and do stuff and be on podcasts. Although I'm at home right now, let's be honest. I'm sitting on a chair without like a donut pillow, so that's great.
Yay! Yeah, because when I visited you in Montreal, you had the donut, right?
Yeah. You came to my studio. That was fun.
I did. That was a lot of fun.
I showed my girlfriend that picture of us by the banner at my studio, and she thought it was really cute. She thought you were really cute. Don't tell her I said that.
Well, we are adorable, so... And it's a nice picture. I think I posted it on Instagram and Blue Sky, so I think. It should be available for any listeners who want to see it.
I'm not serious when I say don't tell her I said that. It's an open secret. Like, whatever.
I wish I could have met her when I was there, but I think she was not around when...
She was out that night. She's actually in Ottawa for a few days as well, so I'm going to miss her for Halloween. Which is, I guess I'm going like stag. Do we still go stag now? I haven't actually had to use that word since before I transitioned. I don't know. Anyways.
I've never heard of not like a female gendered version of it, but I have to imagine it would be...
Well, I've heard stagette. I've heard of like stagette as in like a stag party or like a stagette party. And I feel like that's just some sort of homunculus of language that was made because cis-het people can be weird about stuff.
I've never heard doe party, but I've heard like when it's both genders, it's a stag and doe. Both genders being like the typical male female, but
yeah. I've done. I went to one, I think. Yeah, definitely. I drank a lot, so I don't know, but I did.
I don't go out. I live under a rock in my apartment. I like to joke that I'm enjoying my rent tonight. Like that's what I'm doing. So
heck yeah.
So, we are going to be talking about Borderlands 4.
Yay!
I'd like to say it was because of, like, things with Zoe that we didn't get to this until now, but to be honest, like, the podcast has had so much going on this last couple months that, like, I think the week Borderlands 4 released actually was the week I went to Montreal. So, like, it's just been, like, one of those things we keep kicking the can down the road on, so.
I was, like, still in my playthrough when I saw you, and then now I have, it's actually been like a month now since I've even picked up the game, but like I finished the campaign. I got my character to level 50, which is the max level. I did some of the end game stuff, which at the time was a little lacking, but I mean, spoilers, I had a great time with the game. I have a lot to say, and it's not all positive, but like it was a great game.
Well, speaking of spoilers, I think we'll try to avoid like big story spoilers like towards the end of the game until like maybe the end of the podcast.
I'll talk more generally about how the narrative works rather than saying what happens.
Perfect. Yeah. So that's great. So that's my first question for you actually, and this isn't going to be like a interview, but I just want to kind of set the stage for anyone who's like not played Borderlands 4 or never played a Borderlands game before, just like in general, like what's the gameplay like? What's the story like? And your take on it.
Okay, so Borderlands is a first-person shooter that is heavily, like, pretty much entirely built around this loot system. Kind of like, I think the closest analog that people will know is like a Diablo game. So it's a shooter with guns, but those guns have randomly assigned stats, and you are looking for like legendaries and stuff. And so you're going through a world and you are doing quests and fighting bosses. And, you know, of course, bosses and special enemies have higher chances of dropping better guns. You have the whole like, you know, green, blue, purple, orange progression of like item quality. And yeah, it's a loot system that's built on top of an action RPG. So you have a character in every game. There are 4 characters. I think that then there's DLC characters in some of them, where it's like every time you level up, you will get a stat point. That stat point can then be spent on a skill tree. And it is an action RPG. It is very much like Diablo if it were a first-person shooter. And then the thing with Borderlands that is... it's something, is that it's also like this jokey, anarchic, like humor game where it's like a cel-shaded art style and very like lovingly hyper violent and over the top and silly and jokey. And thank goodness the 4th game tones that way the hell back, because that's like my history with the I played the first Borderlands, and the first Borderlands I don't think is that noteworthy. Like it's kind of like the first iteration of it. It's solid. I played it. It was good. Whatever.
It's the one I never hear anyone talk
Nobody
about.
Nobody ever talks about
Borderlands
the first
2
Borderlands.
was amazing. Borderlands 3 missed the mark, and Borderlands
Okay.
literally never won.
So this is like my biggest bugbear of the series, is the idea that Borderlands 2 is amazing and Borderlands 3 is bad, because the reason that everyone praises Borderlands 2 specifically is like the writing, which I hate so much. Like have you ever been to like an open mic comedy club and like have had someone who's just bombing on microphone? It's just, there's nothing more embarrassing and it just makes you feel bad than watching someone be unfunny while they're confidently thinking that they're funny. And that's Borderlands 2. It's just, I don't know how to say it. It's just not funny, and it's obnoxious. It is like a shotgun blast to your face of obnoxious bad comedy that is cringe. And it's awful. I hate it. Like it's one of my most uniquely hated games because of how aggressively bad the writing is and how in your face it is. And whatever, like lots of games have bad writing, and if there were a really good game attached to that, it would be fine. The thing with Borderlands 2 is that it's also just like a really mediocre shooter. It's just a slight iteration on the previous game. It doesn't feel good. Like the feel of guns, the feel of movement, the feel of enemies, it's all just kind of like it's not terrible, but it's not good. The loot is solid, but it's not enough. Like loot doesn't matter if the gameplay that you're using the loot with isn't good. And so my feeling of Borderlands 2 is that like I didn't like it very much. I am so much in the minority on that. It is beloved. People love it. I don't get it, but you know, fair enough. Like comedy is so subjective. Like I can imagine a world where if I thought the writing in Borderlands 2 was super amazing and compelling, I probably would have loved it. It's also just like silly. Like there's this one joke in Borderlands 2 from very early in the game that always stuck out, where it's just like, so the main villain of the game that everyone talks about, and this is also wild to me, is that Handsome Jack is the villain, and everyone is like, oh, he's one of like the great video game antagonists, and is just like the CEO of this corporation that runs this planet, and he's calling you and making bad comedy at you, and it's like you're subjected to his bad comedy, and it's not funny. And he's like, oh, I got a horse made of diamonds and it's called Butt Stallion. Isn't that funny? I called it Butt Stallion. It's a butt. And I'm just like, God, can I turn your volume off? Which also brings me to a thing in Borderlands 4, which is very unique and funny. There's also like a minion style like mascot for the series named Claptrap, which is like this silly little robot that is also pretty unfunny most of the time. Although I think Claptrap is a little more endearing. It's like affable. It's like whatever. So that's Borderlands 2. I don't like it. I think it's bad. And then Borderlands 3 came out, and Borderlands 3 had the same problems of writing as the second game, which is that it is obnoxious and unfunny most of the time. And yet, for some reason, that game was hated for its writing. Like Borderlands 2 was this wonderful, amazing piece of writing. Borderlands 3 was bad. And I cannot square that in my head because they're both kind of badly written in the same way. Like, it's the same thing. But I guess enough time had passed that the people who were like 14 years old when Borderlands 2 was tickling their jollies, then they were adults when Borderlands 3 came out and were suddenly like, well, I say, this is obnoxious. This isn't like the Shakespearean masterpiece of Borderlands. I don't know. this is very subjective. The thing with Borderlands 3, though, is that Borderlands 3 played awesome. It felt so good. The actual shooting of the shooter was really, really good. The guns felt better. It was just like a better game. Again, this is all my opinion. This is all very, very subjective. It was a bigger game.
On Zoe in the comments.
It was a bigger game with a broader scope that just felt better in every single way. The characters had more interesting skills that also didn't like lock you into using specific guns, because the guns are a big thing. It was just better. Like, your movement felt better. The enemies made more sense. A big problem with Borderlands 2 is that the Hyperion drones are like the primary enemy force. So throughout like the back half of the campaign, you're mostly fighting these robots that are just not fun. Even if you're using the weapon type that has the damage that does more damage to them, it's just like the way that they work mechanically is just a slog to fight, and it's annoying. And then in Borderlands 3, just everything is better. From a gameplay standpoint, it is like 208 times better. It's so much better. And yeah, the writing is still bad, but now there's a really fun game attached to it, so it's okay. And yeah, that's where I was at with the Borderlands series, and then Borderlands 4 came out, and it's the best one by a country mile, and it's really good, and I love it.
All right, so before we get into Borderlands 4 and that note, because I think that's a good segue, but I do want to backtrack a little bit, because we've talked a lot about the gameplay and broad strokes of the story, but like, what is the premise of the like Borderlands 4 or just the series in general? Like, what's the story about? Like, if you could give like a 30-second like elevator pitch.
Okay, so basically in the Borderlands games, and this is consistent with all of them, you don't have like character classes, or your character classes are vault hunters. And vault hunters are, within the fiction of this game, people who are looking for a vault. So in the first game, you don't even know if there is a vault. It's this alien technology thing that is on this planet called Pandora, which is like a desert planet. It's spooky and bad and depressing. And then by the end of that game, you find a vault and there's a thing, whatever. The second game is also a hunt for a vault, but now there's a big evil corporation that gives more of an antagonistic force. Third game, there's multiple vaults. And then the fourth game, you're trapped on a planet, which has this guy called the Timekeeper, who is the antagonist. And he's like actually quite a good villain. Like, and I'll get into that later, but like, the premise of Borderlands is basically that you are in this science fiction universe where there's different planets that have been like, you know, settled by people, and it's very corporate and depressing. Like, all of the different guns that you're getting, all of them are based on a certain corporation, and then what corporation that gun is from actually affects its stats and stuff. And it's actually really cool because like you start being like, oh, I really like Jacobs guns, or like I really like COV guns. Both of those are manufacturers that I hate, actually, but those are examples of things that are there. I really like Malawan guns. They're quite good. They really lean into like elemental affinities. And yeah, so it's basically just like science fiction universe. It's very like rugged usually, like like Diablo Firefly mixed with a lot of bad comedy.
And so we were about to talk about, but you're about to go into Borderlands 4 right when I cut you off there before. So like, what makes Borderlands 4 both the story and the gameplay? And feel free to start with whichever one you want to talk about first. But like, what makes it better than the other games for you?
So I'm not going to say that the story is like a masterpiece, because it's not, but it's so much less obnoxious generally. There's still a lot of the comedy. Like, the comedy is core to the identity of Borderlands. Like, these are games that are jokey and silly. But it's just like the dramatic stakes are more focused on in a way that are like again, it's not that serious. It's not that heavy, but it's just enough that it actually feels like, oh man, this bad thing is happening and I'm actually concerned about it. And I kind of care a bit about the characters. And it's like, it's still a jokey video game plot, but it's done with just a little bit more severity. You don't have people calling you every 10 minutes to just make like terrible, terrible, unfunny jokes. It's humorous, but it's just toned down enough that I can invest myself in it. And all of that jokey stuff, if you like it, is still there in all of the side quests. There's so many side quests. And it's just that. So the Timekeeper is like a super duper mega sci-fi fascist. He's the villain of the game. And basically the first thing that happens when you land on the planet is that you get like a bolt put into like the back of your spine. And everyone on the planet has this thing where the Timekeeper can just take control of your body and puppet you to do whatever. And some really messed up stuff happens about it. Like the first opening of the story is like genuinely disturbing with some of the stuff that happens. You get rescued by this kid who's part of this resistance named RJ. This is the first like half hour of the story. And so he's rescuing you. It's like your standard opening mission, like prison escape thing. And then the timekeeper takes over his body and makes him like stab himself and fall off a cliff after giving a monologue through his mouth about how you'll never escape. And it's like, oh, this is heavy. Like, it's actually like pretty solid, like villain stuff. And so, yeah, like you're playing through the game trying to stop the timekeeper. And the way that it's divided up narratively is that there are 3 main regions of the map. And then each of those regions has like a faction, and you do like a line of quests for that faction. And then there's the final one in like the big city in the middle. And that's the game. And it's like an open world looter shooter, and there's lots of side quests and stuff. And, God, it plays so much better than the old ones. Like Borderlands 3 was a huge upgrade, and then Borderlands 4 is like all of that plus like double jump, and like you have like a cool lasso thing that you can, or like a hook shot or whatever that you can use to like hook shot onto surfaces and then pull yourself towards them, and then you have like a jump jet where you can kind of like hover down with a certain amount of stamina, so you're way more mobile, you move a lot more quickly, and it just feels really good to play. And also the loot, and this is the thing, game over game, the loot always gets way better, where it's like much more meaningful, like distinctions between the guns, a lot more like things that are interesting, like the Timekeeper's Order is like the new company of guns, and Order guns have a thing where you can hold a charge shot and release like several rounds at once, but you get all of their damage combined, and that is insanely useful. Like a sniper rifle, you can just burn the whole mag at once, and snipers already have insane damage, and it's like you can just one-hit kill enemies that you normally shouldn't be able to. Or like guns that have like an alternate fire where you can switch to like homing rockets that shoot out of like a magazine, and just all sorts of cool stuff. And it all feels good. It's all really good. It's great. It's just a really, really fun action shooter that I needed, because I was like 2 weeks post-op, and at that point I was still in a lot of pain, and I got it expecting like a mindless game where I could just make my number go up and just kind of like lose myself to like number go up, but it was just fantastic. It's a really good game. It rules. It's really depressing that the conversation is Randy Pitchford pooping on Twitter.
Well, we'll come back to the poop. Well, actually, I guess this is a good segue into the pooping on Twitter stuff, because I did talk about in a previous episode that, yeah, he went, he like crashed out on Twitter. He was crapping all over fans and like basically saying like, if the game doesn't run well on your PC and you don't have the best PC of all time, just refund the game, which is a horrible sales pitch. But so that's the big problem with the game too, is that's why people were like arguing with him on Twitter. They were just saying like, hey, the game doesn't run well. Can you optimize it?
It's badly optimized.
Yeah, so were you having issues with it?
Well, no, like I'm playing it on an Xbox Series S, which is I think the lowest spec device that you can get the game on, and it's like, yeah, it's a little choppy sometimes. Totally. And like, stuff in the distance is a little blurry, like it's a pretty fun fast-paced shooter. Like it's fine for me, like it doesn't bother me that much. It's an Unreal 5 game.
Everything I've heard about Unreal 5 is that it's not a very well optimized game engine.
It's a super well optimized engine for computers that don't exist for another 5 years.
That's
which, like, that's not a joke. That's how I feel about Crytek. Actually, no, with Crytek, because Crytek didn't have the Crysis engine that didn't have like multi core stuff. It's just like, so like there were certain things that he said, and like, God, I'm gonna try to like bring them up, where like the technical factual contents of what he said were not incorrect, but he was such an asshole about it that it was like I don't care if you're right, you're still wrong. yeah, that was like, it's just like, just shut up, dude. Like, it's a really, really good game. Like, in spite of the performance issues, most of the critics, like, I got sold this game on critics who were just like, yeah, the performance isn't great, but the game is super good. And that's my takeaway. The game rules. And sometimes it's not performing super great. If there's all sorts of crap happening on screen, like, yeah, it is, like not even that noticeably choppy. Like, it's not broken. It's fine. It's not going to be like a smooth 60 FPS all the time. Heck, I think that the target for the Series S is like 30 FPS. And I think, by my own observation, I think it's probably more like 25 a lot of the time. So it's like noticeable, but it's still fun and playable. Like, it never gets unplayable. It never gets like a problem. It's just kind of like, man, just shut up. You're turning the conversation about the really good game that your company just made to being about how you're just having a hissy fit on social media.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because, like, I think at this point in his career, obviously, like, there's nothing he could probably say or do that would actively make his game not sell super well, because at this point,
Borderlands is really popular.
Like, a built-in audience. Yeah. So,
I got the third game used for like $10 or whatever, and I liked it. Like, I wasn't I am not someone who tends to buy games at the $90 that they cost here in Canada, and I bought Borderlands 4 for full price because it did look that good. And it was like, I do not feel ripped off. It was a great game. It's just like, oh my God, Randy is an embarrassing figure. Like,
I would not disagree with you on that. I think anyone who's creating content of any kind and you yell at your fans who just want to enjoy your content, they're not even arguing. They're not even like arguing with you. They're just, these fans were not even like, the ones he was arguing with were not irate or rude or belittling. They were just like, hey, we'd really like it if you could like optimize the game a little better, please, because we want to enjoy the thing that you made. And he's like, go F yourself. Like, legitimately. Just go away, refund the game. Like, who says that?
Well, people are optimizing it. Like, that's the thing, is they are. It's a thing that people are doing. There are people who are optimizing the game. I think a patch came out that did help a bit. I mean, there's only so much that can happen. And this gets into a broader discussion about, like, you know, making spec for Xbox. Because I played it on the Xbox Series S. That is ultimately, like, the lowest common denominator.
They have to develop it for two sets of specs, right? So there's the Series S, which is closer to
significantly
Nintendo Switch
weaker.
2. And then, actually, there's the whole Nintendo Switch 2 conversation. So I don't know if you heard about this, but I brought this up a few weeks ago on the podcast. Is that the Switch 2 version is delayed indefinitely because they can't get it running on there.
Yeah, it's Unreal 5 is weird, but like that's the thing with Xbox, is that like you have to basically design the game for two specs, and I mean, again, as a Series S player, is like, I had a great time. I liked it. I'm just looking at some of his tweets. Like, I just Google image searched it, and it's like, oh my God. Like, oh God, there's things that he's saying where it's like, I don't even disagree with you. You're just such a dick about it. Like, you know, hey, you can't expect 4K 60 FPS for every game. And it's like, yeah, no, you can't. But why are you condescending people about it? Just let your team do, like, again, it's just like, let your team do their job. That's it. That's all you got to do. Because there are a group of people who are making the game, who are developing it, who are debugging, and it's like, you're hurting them. You're making them the villain of this ridiculous thing that you're trying to do, which is, I don't know, he's like a narcissist. He's like a narcissist where it's like, he can't take any criticism, and he can't oh God, here we go. So I think that he has this thing where he wants to be like a Shigeru Miyamoto, Hideo Kojima. Like, he wants to be like a rock star, beloved game developer, but he's not. He just doesn't have that in him, and it bothers him. And so it's like, he's just God, he's almost like mirroring like Hideki Kamiya. Like, do you know who Hideki Kamiya is?
Yeah, Platinum Games Bayonetta guy. He crashed out when there was the whole controversy with the Bayonetta 3 voice actress.
And the thing is that Hideki Kamiya has in his career made a better game than Randy Pitchford will ever in his life, like 10 times. Like, some of my favorite games of all time are stuff that Kamiya made. And like, I don't actually agree with this, but like, it's like, Hideki Kamiya can be a dick on Twitter because he's earned it through game dev chops. You know, like, I don't necessarily think that the guy would be pleasant to hang out with, but he's not just like
bad. He was vindicated for the whole Bayonetta 3 thing, right? Because he was really rude to fans on Twitter, blocking people left and right. About that. But then we later found out that like the stuff she was saying on Twitter about him and the game, the voice actress who didn't get the job, was like the original Bayonetta voice actress, whose name is escaping me right now. She was replaced.
This is years ago. I don't remember, but yeah, I remember like vaguely that she was lying or something.
She was lying, and then it also turned out that she was a raging transphobe too. So like that all when all that kind of came up, he was like, "Yeah, that's why she wasn't hired." Like all these things were like bubbling up, and we were like, we didn't want to have the controversy, especially with Nintendo funding the game. So say what you will about him, but in this one instance, he was later vindicated, but I think nobody at that point had noticed because everyone was like, well, he's a dick.
I don't think that he was vindicated out of any, like, great moral clarity of his soul. He was just kind of like, he's a really good game designer and he happened to be on the right side of this. But, like of my, like, top 5 games of all time, Okami is one of them. And Okami is, like, a masterpiece to me. Again, I just, like, the point is just, like, Hideki Kamiya has the clout. And I think that, I don't know, Randy Pitchford kind of wants to be one of those people. It's just, like, sad. It's a little sad.
Yeah, I think it would have been better if he had just said nothing than, like, trying to justify anything.
He can't say nothing. He can't say nothing. He doesn't have it in him to just, like, shut up. Which, I have to imagine that all of his team, you know, as he probably thinks he's defending them too. Like in his head, he's probably like, you know, oh, I'm defending my people. And I'm sure that his people are just like, dude, just put down the phone. Gearbox needs to hire a guy to just like be by Randy Pitchford. And every time he like tries to open up Twitter, that person just like bats it out of his hand. Just like, no, bad dog.
Well, whoever is going to do that job should also probably double up and do Donald Trump as well while we're at it. So let's talk about let's bring it back to True Avatars for a minute here, because I wanted to ask. I think you said too, like
Chief Secretary of Shut the Hell Up.
Yes, that'd be great. So when we were talking initially, you were like, "Oh, Borderlands 4 is actually super gay," and I was like, "That's awesome to hear. Like, let's get you on a podcast and talk about it."
Easily.
So how exactly is it super gay?
It's queer in the way that I like, which is that there's a bunch of queer characters, and actually now that it's been a month, I only have 2 in mind, but it's also like just kind of like, oh, this is nice. I think the first time that I picked up on it was like the mildest possible spoilers of like the first plot arc of the game, which is that you encounter the first of the 3 factions that you encounter. There's this character named Conway, and I noticed after like a couple missions that every time they are mentioned and every time they are referred to, it's always like they. And the first like time it didn't really register because I'm just like, oh, you know, sometimes like grammatically or whatever, you're just going to say they for whatever. It was like, no, this is pretty consistent. And they're really cool. They're like a cool like tech wizard hacker person. And then I looked it up and it's like, no, like Conway is like canonically non-binary, and that was neat. One of the 4 Vault Hunters. So these are like the character classes, and they are like distinct characters. Not the one that I played. I played Vex, who is as queer as it's possible to be while not actually being queer officially, I think. But there's Amon, which is just a gay man. And after I had finished my playthrough of the game, my girlfriend started her own playthrough, and I remember sitting there like in bed with her, and she was like picking her character, and I think that her sense of this is better than me because she picked Amon, who's like this big buff daddy guy, and I was like, oh, he's actually gay. And she's like, yeah, no duh. I was like, oh, okay. There's a number of... I know there's definitely more than that. 1 second. But it's just kind of like this nice, irreverent representation where it's just like... It's good. There's a whole bunch of people in the game that are canonically queer, and also it's just not a big deal. It's not like it's what I want to see when I want to feel represented, which is just kind of like, oh, these are characters who exist in this cool sci-fi action shooter, and also it's not like the focus of their story. It's not like a queer tragedy. It's not anything like that. It's just kind of like, hey, there's some queers here. I have Googled this, and apparently there is a whole bunch more characters that I didn't know about, because again, they're like... and that also gets into a bigger discussion of like, well, how do you bring it up in the context of a narrative in order to like make it so that people know? But also, should you? Because I think in my first episode of the podcast that I was on, I go back to that example of the trans character in Mass Effect Andromeda, which is like the character you just talk to, and you're like, your first RPG dialogue, and you're like, hi, who are you? And they're just like, why, hello, I am a tran, and this is my dead name, and let me tell you everything about being a transsexual. And I'm just like, oh, that's exactly how we all talk.
That's how I introduced myself to you, I remember.
I have business cards that just...
I was like, I am a fellow tran. Please be on my podcast.
I just have business cards that have it printed on it so that I can just like hold it up and be like...
The transgender ID card. It has my... I now have a bisexual card as well.
Yeah, so. I mean, the queer part of Borderlands 4 is just something that's kind of like nice. It's a really good game. I liked it a lot. I had a great time. Randy Pitchford needs to shut the hell up, but like, it's a great game. And I mean, I can talk a lot more about like random granular things. Like, I don't think it has much endgame, but I might not be able to talk about that now, because like I said, it's been like a month since I actually like picked it up, so I don't know if they've been adding endgame, because it's like a live game. So yeah, Borderlands 4 is quite good, and also it is junk food. It's video game junk food. It's really, really, really good video game junk food, but it is a game where you are grinding levels and making numbers go up and getting skill points and getting loot and all of that stuff. And like, if that's something that you're looking for, it's really polished. It has a lot of personality. The art is quite good, I think. That's basically the gist of it. It's a really good game.
Okay. And I do have a couple more questions for you.
Yeah, do it.
So I think you've already kind of answered this a little bit, but I just wanted to clarify. You played single player the whole way through, right? Because you can play co-op, I think, as well through the entire story. I did
actually play with my friend Lily in Toronto. I played with her like a couple times, and we like the co-op is really fun. It's like drop in, drop out. It's like pretty easy. Yeah, that was really fun. It has split screen co-op too. So that's a thing that my girlfriend is still playing through it. She's playing through it a lot more slowly because she's not in surgical recovery, so she is doing more stuff. I think she's like level 25 right now. But you can play like split screen co-op with two characters on the same system, at least on Xbox. I don't know about other platforms, but it's definitely like a multiplayer focused game. There's even certain skills and stuff that you can get where it's like they have a benefit. Oh, and this is really smart, by the way. Because like you have skill trees where it's like you'll get a benefit, but then it'll also benefit your allies. Because that's a thing that in some like RPGs where you'll get a thing that is only useful if you're playing multiplayer, but people don't generally only play multiplayer. So it's like, this is just useful. And also, if you have friends, it's good for them too. So you can kind of spec into something that's like good for multiplayer while still also just being good. Yeah, it's online. Awesome. It's really fun. Oh. It's just fun. Like, it's really, really fun. Like, everything that I've said kind of betrays just the core thing, which is that as just a shooter, it is incredibly fun and cathartic. It feels really good. It's horrifyingly violent and perhaps too much. Like, there is a bit of like almost like masturbatory glorification of violence within the game that I don't mind, because I grew up in the 90s playing boomer shooters, but like that is a thing where like I can totally imagine it being kind of disturbing to people. Like this is a little messed up, where it's like random NPCs are like, yeah, blood and guts, get their spines. Like, okay, yeah, it's totally a normal thing. It's very childish in a fun way. It's like a pop punk version of a metal album filtered through the mind of a very 14-year-old edgelord.
That is very vivid and accurate. I feel from everything I know about Borderlands, which admittedly is not much, this is the longest conversation I've ever had about a Borderlands game.
It's really good.
In one sitting, but that sounds very accurate. But speaking of having never played a Borderlands game, if someone wanted to jump into the Borderlands series, is Borderlands 4 a good game to start with? Could I jump into this game having never played one and know what's going on and understand everything and enjoy the gameplay too?
The plot is completely self-contained. There are characters from the previous game, and like they're major characters, but I don't think that you're going to lose anything from like not having them, or sorry, like not knowing them. Like, actually, one of the best dynamics in the game is two of the Vault Hunters from the previous game. Amara, who I played in Borderlands 3, and she rules. She's really, really cool. And then Zane, who was one of the other Vault Hunters, and they're both kind of like washed up doing their own thing in the world. And then you kind of like get them back into the fight, and you go through a series of missions near the end of the game with them, and their dynamic is really good. And it is a little bit difficult to say, because obviously I played the previous game, but I'm pretty sure that like if you played that without knowing them, it would just be like really fun banter. And I mean, that's the thing with the writing, is that like the characters are really good. Also, Zane is bisexual. I just realized that. So that's another one that I can't remember. Although his entire plot is about him he would be the worst boyfriend in the world, just for real. Like Zane is such a mess. But then like he's like very much like Irish, like, oh boy, we're gonna go blow him up and blah blah blah. And then the main character of the faction that you're playing through that part of the game with is like a very prim and prissy, like, oh, we are hoity-toity nobles, we have lots of money, we are fancy. And Zane is an old flame of hers, and so it's like a lot of that plot is their like flirty dynamic that they like hate each other, but they obviously still really like each other, and that's kind of fun. It's also kind of just like, what, like, babe, why would you go for Zane? Come on. Like, don't get me wrong, he's hot, but like that's not gonna work out.
Well, I am not trying to cut this short, because I do want to open it up to some spoiler conversation, but I am going to just like let listeners and audience know that we're recording this on Tuesday, October 28th, and
it's 10:05 p.m.
and the Toronto Blue Jays were up till, well, they weren't playing in LA, so they weren't up super late, but the game went till 3 a.m. last night, and I am fading. I stayed up till 2:30 to the bottom of the 17th, hoping they would win, and as soon as I tuned out, they lost. So if everyone's like watching me at all with my face, I'm sure you're looking at Zoe. She looks amazing right now. But if you're looking at me, I'm like starting to go. So we'll do maybe 10 minutes.
I had
of
a date
talk
tonight,
if you want to.
and I'm insecure.
Oh, no, you shouldn't be. You look amazing, gorgeous.
I know,
and you have really nice looking lighting too. It's like
you also look amazing. Your lighting is betraying you. Having seen you in person, you're very beautiful. I promise. It's the lighting.
You. Oh. No, I have to get like proper lighting.
You have the son of Tatooine behind you.
I do have to get better lighting in here. I've been putting it off. I'm like, every week it's like, okay, we're going to take baby steps to just like the amount of time that I have to actually get stuff done. It's like, all right, this week is this tiny project, and then next week is that tiny project. So, at some point, that project will be lighting. I have a ring light somewhere in here, actually, but I've moved so many times now that since I last streamed, I don't know where the ring light is. Every time I move, I lose one or two things, and I'm like, I know it's in a box somewhere, but I haven't seen it. So,
Ghosts
like, I have a
took
hard
it.
drive with like all kinds of stuff on it that I just can't find either. So,
Ghosts took it. No, I'm a believer in Occam's razor, like that the most logical explanation that involves the fewest assumptions is most likely to be correct. So, Ghosts took it. It was Ghosts.
perfect.
'Cause it's
I'll have to talk
October.
with these ghosts.
But yeah,
That's true,
spoilers.
yes. Okay, we're jumping into spoilers now. So if you want to jump out, this is the time if you're gonna go play the game. But yeah.
I mean, I don't even know like what there is to spoil that's like super like the plot is good. As a video game plot, as a set of characters and narrative moments that really kind of like pump you up to go do the things, it's great. So basically there's the three factions. You have Rush, and he is leading like a resistance faction in the first like of the three like major biomes. Oh god, okay, no, actually, yeah, like some of the messed up moments. Yeah, so you encounter this woman and she's like this tech genius so the Timekeeper has been there for like 1,000 years. He's like immortal or whatever. And he has basically been subjugating this planet for a very long time, and it's only recently that the planet's become like known to the outer world. So you encounter this woman and she is basically like hiding out in the wilderness from him, but it turns out that she was actually like one of his like favored people for a whole long time. And she grows a conscience, and then she joins the resistance, and she's also like one of the characters that goes through the most development. And then there's this one bit near the end of the game where your ability for the Timekeeper to take over your body, because again you have those bolts, is like temporarily interrupted, and he uses that to kill her with your body. Like you're like holding a gun and pew, and she's dead now.
Oh my gosh.
And it's really intense, and that sucked. And like, there's a lot of moments of that. RJ, who I mentioned from the beginning, like, oh my god. So, at the beginning of the game, he's like this nice guy who's an idealistic revolutionary who's trying to like fight back against the Timekeeper. And then the Timekeeper makes him kill himself with his own body by taking control, and like he has a big knife and he stabs himself and falls off into a cliff, and you're like, oh, that sucked. And then like, god, like 20 hours later in the story, he comes back as this like weird interdimensional thing that's happening. He's one of the final bosses of the game, because basically like the weird Joseph Mengele ass, like very clearly a Nazi scientist for the Timekeeper, has been using him and his like interdimensional ability that he got somehow, although that's not super clear. But he's gone completely like he's in like a total psychosis where he ends up like slowly directing himself against you. And at the end of the game, like right before the last boss, you have to kill him because he's ultimately trying to stop the whole like revolution and stuff. It's actually quite good. Like that's the thing, is like this is the first game in the Borderlands series where like the other ones have some moments where you're like, oh man, that was kind of crazy, or like, oh, that was a little bit wild. And in this one, it's like there's a lot of moments where I'm like, wow, that was messed up and intense, and I'm super stoked.
I'm not gonna lie, the spoilers are kind of selling you on this. Like, I think the bolt thing is the type of mid 2000s edgelord.
Okay, but no, but it creates so many plot holes. It creates so many plot holes.
I don't care. It sounds edgy enough that I'm into it.
It's cool. It's really cool, but it's like as you are slowly like winning the day, the question is always like, okay, so like I have my bolt there's a plot thing where it's like your bolt is interfered with so that he can't like take you over, but the other characters aren't. And so there's always that question of like, well, why isn't the Timekeeper just pressing the button? Like, why are you not doing it? And that is a gaping plot hole in my opinion, but it's fine. It's fine. It is an exciting and fun story full of good characters that are, I mean, again, like I don't want to, this isn't like Shakespeare. It's just like really fun, exciting video game writing. It's like you're playing an action RPG with over-the-top villains and heroes, and the stuff that happens is really like totally like psyching you up. When I got to the end of the game and I beat the campaign, I was so fucking hyped. And I know you're gonna have to bleep that swear. I'm sorry, but
okay. You're good.
Just bleep it. Yeah, it ruled. It was a really fun game. I had a great time playing it. It was a very video gamesy video game. No pretension. It didn't feel pretentious in any way where it was just like, hey, we want to give you a really, really fun action RPG in a shooter that is extremely exciting and fast-paced, and the gameplay is great, and there's all sorts of cool characters, and it rules. Good game. Loved it. Also, I was like stuck in bed for 3 weeks or something before I got to play it, so that may have had an influence, but still it ruled.
That's great. All right, I think we're going to wrap up because I am fading because, again, like I stayed up late watching the Jays, but I just want to like ask any final thoughts before we head out.
As much as I love this game, if everything that I said makes it sound like a game for you that you'll put a lot of time into, by all means, go get it. But also, it's like $90 Canadian, so I think that's like, what, 70 American or something?
That sounds right.
I think that the more moral thing to do is to buy like 5 indie games with that money.
100%.
But also, like, I bought it. Like, no shade if you buy it too. It's pretty good.
Also, I feel like I see Borderlands games on sale all the time. Like,
it's going to be on sale. And you know what? Quick. Like I fell off of it because the end game wasn't that good. I beat the campaign at like level 30, and then I grinded up to level 50, and I had a good time with that. I had my fill. But there was no real end game, not really. So, you know what? If you buy it in like a year or two when it's on sale for maybe half off or whatever, there's probably going to be a way better experience waiting for you. Just saying.
Patient gaming. In the meantime, you can play those 5 indie games for $90.
Arco's really cool. That combat system is really sick. Yeah. Okay.
It's all going on my wish list.
Okay, we're done.
Anyway. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about Borderlands 4. I'm sorry it took us so long to get to this. And yeah,
it's my bad. We had a session planned, and then I canceled because I had a complication with my surgery that weighed heavily on me, but I'm glad that we did this.
Yeah, me too. And I'm glad it all worked out. And also, like, it wasn't just you. Like, there were, like, weeks where I was like, we should talk about Borderlands 4. And I'm like, no, but there's also this other game.
Dude, the industry is on fire.
It is on
fire.
There are giant... so many queer games coming out.
There are giant Cthulhu bats flying around, plucking up game developers from the sky.
They just hit Amazon today, so...
Oh... I didn't look at the news. Okay.
Anyway,
we're gonna end the podcast.
I don't know how the news is gonna develop. I'm gonna record the news segment like in 5 days.
The longer I talk to you, the more depressing it's gonna get.
Oh, okay. Oh, we'll stop there. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah.
And I hope you have a great night. One more quick question. If people want to follow you on social media, where can they find you?
I'm Zoe Leet. So on Blue Sky, I'm Zoe Leet, ZOELEET. And that's the only thing I'm really on. Like, I'm not big on social media because I think it's a nightmare for humankind, and that's an hour-and-a-half long discussion that we're not going to have right now. Have a great night.
All right. Take care. Thank you so much.
See ya.
And that just about wraps up this week's show. Thanks, True Avatars, for joining me for another episode of your Queer Video Game Podcast. By listening to the show, you are supporting queer-made content, which is more important than ever. If you want to support True Avatars, it would be really great if you could leave a comment, rating, or review on your preferred podcast platform. You can follow the show on Blue Sky, Twitter, Threads, TikTok, and YouTube under the handle @TrueAvatars, all one word, and on Facebook and Instagram under True Avatars. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe, as well as hit the notification bell so you can be the first to know when new content drops. I welcome you to check out the official website, TrueAvatarsPodcast.com. That's all one word, TrueAvatarsPodcast.com. On the website, you can sign up for the newsletter, where you can get exclusive news and updates on the show. Bye, True Avatars. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to speaking with you all again next week. Take care and stay safe.